The night they hauled me into the hospital, I can still hear the clatter of my mother's bangles as she signed the admission papers. My father stood a few feet behind her, face blank, as though none of this had anything to do with his own child. Just another formality. The air reeked of disinfectant and dread. I was 16, barefoot, wearing the same hoodie I'd fallen asleep in. A nurse gripped my arm too tightly as she guided me through the double doors that locked from the outside. I turned back toward my parents one last time, waiting, hoping for something. An explanation. A flicker of regret. Even a lie I could hold on to. Mom just said, "You need help, Riley. You're out of control." Dad added, "We can't keep covering for your behavior. This is best for everyone." Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching this video. Behavior. That's what they called it. The panic attacks, the shaking, the crying fits. They never said a word about what started it all. The day I found those documents. The trust fund my grandparents left me, hidden in Dad's desk drawer. It wasn't supposed to be touched until I turned 21. That part didn't sit well with them. I screamed as the doors closed behind me. Somewhere down the hall, a key turned in a lock. I could hear the sound of their footsteps fading. One slow and steady, the other sharp and quick. Mom's. That first night, I lay staring at the ceiling, counting the flickers in the fluorescent light above me. The room was too white, too bright, the sheets coarse against my skin. Every few minutes, someone passed the small square window in the door, their footsteps echoing like the ticking of a clock I couldn't silence. They said it was just for evaluation, 72 hours of observation. But 72 hours stretched into a month. Every time I asked to leave, they told me I wasn't ready. Every time I said I felt fine, they wrote down denial. When my parents visited, Mom brought boxes of fancy chocolates and practiced sympathy. She'd pat my knee and whisper, "You're doing so well, sweetheart. Keep cooperating." Then she'd flash the nurse a smile, like she was posing for a charity brochure. Dad barely looked at me. He just kept signing things. Always signing. One day, I overheard two nurses whispering near the station. "Parents like that make me sick," one said. "You can see the money in their eyes." The other chuckled softly. "Trust fund case, right?" My hands started to tremble. That night, while the night nurse dozed at her desk, I slipped a glance at my file. The first line read, "Admitted by parents for delusional paranoia and emotional instability. Patient believes her parents are attempting financial exploitation." They had rewritten me into a lie. A neat legal one. After 34 days, they finally let me go, not because I'd improved, but because they were finished. At home, everything looked exactly the same. My room, my books, even my pillow smelled like me. But Dad's office door now had a new lock, and so did the filing cabinet. My bank card was missing. Mom greeted me with that bright, empty smile. "We're glad you're home," she said. "You'll thank us someday." Dad added, "We only want what's best for you. You're not responsible enough to handle money like that." "It's my money," I whispered. Mom laughed. "It's family money, darling. And family takes care of family." I didn't answer. Not when she handed me a therapy schedule. Not when she said she'd taken over paying my tuition. Not even when I saw the brand new car in the driveway, the one she'd always said they couldn't afford. I went back to school. People stared, whispered. Some said I'd lost my mind. Others said I'd tried to hurt myself. I didn't bother correcting them. Let them believe the story my parents had sold. For 2 years I played along. Therapy sessions, polite smiles, careful silence. When Mom said, "See, you're doing better," I nodded. I learned to make obedience look effortless. Inside I remembered everything. Every password, every forged signature. Every lie they told when they thought I wasn't listening. Outwardly, I was their daughter again. Inwardly, I was something else entirely, something they had created. By 18 I was legally free. But the trust wasn't. They'd converted it into a family-managed account, locked behind their signatures. On my birthday, Mom handed me a card with a crisp $100 bill tucked inside. "Just for fun," she said with that same polished smile. I thanked her. I even hugged her. But inside, I was done being their investment. One afternoon, I came home early and found Dad in his study. He didn't notice me. He was on the phone saying, "The transfer should be done by the end of the month. Once it's under our name, she'll have no legal claim." Our name. Not mine. That night, I sat in my car outside the house, gripping the steering wheel until my fingers ached. My breath fogged the window. For the first time, I didn't cry. I just felt the cold settle in my chest. They hadn't only taken my money, they'd stolen years of my life and convinced me I was insane for noticing. So I decided if they could rewrite my story once, I'd write the next chapter myself. But not the way they'd expect. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't go to the police. I smiled. I stayed close. I let them believe I was harmless. Because when people think you're weak, they never see you coming. 2 years later, I'd perfected my disguise. On paper, I was the quiet, recovered daughter. I sent holiday cards. I visited when invited. I smiled through dinners. But underneath, I tracked every crack in their perfect facade. They'd grown careless, addicted to the comfort my money bought. Vacations, furniture, Mom's consulting business, which was really just another way to spend. All her invoices were billed to the trust one supposedly couldn't manage. Then one day my chance came. Their accountant, a man who'd known my grandparents, called me by mistake thinking I was my father. "Miss Riley," he said, "we just need your signature for the transfer. Your father's traveling." My pulse stopped. "Transfer for what?" I asked. "For your personal trust disbursement," he said, sounding puzzled. "It's your account." He didn't know they declared me unfit to handle it. I played along. "Oh, right," I said lightly. "Could you email me the form?" He did. And just like that, the door they'd locked opened a crack. I didn't forge anything. I didn't steal. I simply wrote to the Trust's oversight board. People my grandparents had handpicked decades ago. I sent them every document I'd quietly copied from Dad's office. Proof of management fees, mismatched signatures, fake medical records claiming I was unstable. It wasn't revenge yet. It was truth. And truth burns. Weeks later, I came home to find my parents shouting in the driveway. Mom's voice was shrill. "You said she couldn't touch it." Dad snapped. "I don't know how she did it. Someone reopened the account." I sat across the street in my car watching. They didn't see me. They were too busy watching everything they'd stolen slip away. The next morning, a letter arrived. The trust had been restored to my name. Full control, no guardians. They'd been removed entirely. I didn't call them. I didn't celebrate. I just sat at my kitchen table, holding the letter until the edges bent, whispering to myself, "Finally." But it still wasn't enough. Not yet. Money was only part of what they took. The rest was their reputation. The illusion of being devoted parents who'd saved their troubled daughter. That image was their oxygen. So I decided to take that too. I contacted the same hospital where they'd locked me away. I didn't sue or threaten. I simply requested my complete medical file under the Patient Records Act. A week later, a heavy envelope arrived. Inside, pages of tidy lies. Patient exhibits manipulative tendencies. Patient falsely claims financial exploitation. Parents cooperative, emotionally distraught. It was their alibi written in ink. I sent the entire file to the trust auditors anonymously. Days later, a notice of financial misconduct landed in their mailbox. Mom called that night, voice trembling. "What did you do?" I let the silence stretch before saying, "You should get help, Mom. You sound out of control." I heard her breath hitch. They were unraveling, the way I once had behind those locked doors. Dad lost his consulting clients. Mom's business froze under investigation. The house went on the market. Still, I wasn't finished. On my 21st birthday, the age my grandparents had chosen for me to finally claim what was mine, I walked into the bank in a dark coat, handed over my ID, and took it all back. Every cent. Every document. Every piece of me. That night, I sat on my apartment floor surrounded by silence. For the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like proof. I'd survived their story and written my own. But the part that mattered most hadn't happened yet. The part that would show them what it's like to lose something you thought you owned forever. And I already knew exactly how. A year later, they were just shadows of who they used to be. The house that once smelled of polished wood and expensive perfume now. The cafe was half empty, echoing with small talk and clinking cups. I hadn't spoken to them since the trust was restored. But word spreads fast in a small town. My mother started appearing at my job, always perfectly dressed, pretending it was a coincidence. The first time she brought cookies. The next she sat in her car for hours waiting. I never went outside. Then my father called, from a number I didn't recognize. His voice was brittle, the sound people make when their authority is gone. "Riley," he said, "we need to talk. It's about the trust." "There's nothing left to talk about," I told him. "There's everything to talk about," he snapped. "Your mother's having a hard time. We can't pay the mortgage. You don't want us to lose the house, do you?" I almost laughed. Lose the house? The one they bought with my money. The same house whose locks once kept me out of their office and in the dark. "I don't owe you anything," I said. "You made sure of that." He started to raise his voice, then stopped. The silence that followed was heavier than anger. "You'll regret this," he muttered. I hung up. 2 months later, the house went into foreclosure. I didn't plan it, but seeing the auction notice online felt like the story had come full circle. I didn't bid. I didn't even go. I just watched the listing disappear photo by photo. The perfect lawn, the white porch, the study that used to reek of Dad's whiskey. It was like watching a memory decay in real time. But that wasn't revenge. Not yet. Revenge wasn't about the money or the house. It was what came after. An email arrived from the trust's legal office, asking if I wanted to redirect a charitable portion of my inheritance. My grandparents had left a clause, a percentage meant for family-related welfare initiatives. I read it twice and knew exactly what I'd do. I approved a new allocation, not to help my parents, but to fund the psychiatric facility they once used as my prison. The money was transferred under a new name, the Riley Grant Mental Health Advocacy Fund. A few weeks later, the hospital's director reached out. They wanted to name a new patient wing after me, the Riley Wing, dedicated to youth recovery. I attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony. My parents came too, uninvited. They hovered in the back, trying to disappear. Dressed in clothes that no longer boasted wealth. The director shook my hand in front of them, smiling. "Your generosity will change lives," he said. I saw my mother's expression tighten as she realized. The same institution she'd once locked me in now carried my name. Every time she passed it, she'd be reminded. Every time someone mentioned the Riley Wing, she'd remember what she'd done, and who I became without her. After the ceremony, she came up to me, eyes glistening. "You humiliated us?" she asked. "No," I said calmly. "You did that yourselves." Dad grabbed my arm. "You think this makes you better than us?" I looked at him the way he once looked at me through the hospital's glass, cold, detached. "No," I said. "It makes me free." I walked away before they could respond. Outside, the air smelled of spring rain. I slipped the name badge they'd given me into my bag and caught my reflection in the car window, older, steadier, untouchable. As I drove off, they stood by the curb, small against the building that bore my name. Their empire, built on control, money, and fear, had finally fallen. Not through vengeance, but through truth. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of coffee, listening to the city hum below. Lights flickered on one by one like quiet promises. They once said I was unstable, that I couldn't survive without them. But now, everything they loved carried my name, and none of it carried theirs. When the phone rang again, I didn't answer. Please subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.